They come around like honey because I'm fly like a bee because I got them all buzzing in SimWorld today. Good morning. It's Thursday. It's a solo SimWorld today on this May 23rd. A lot to get into with one guy spewing a lot at you, so let's dive right on in. We're starting in the association where last night the Minnesota Timberwolves could not protect home court advantage just like the Denver Nuggets before them. And Dallas, with more than 60 points combined by one Kyrie and Luka Doncic, that'd be two, not one, take home court on the road. They rally back with a late 8-0 run, and the Dallas Mavericks are on top of the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals, 1-0. This game, as you watched it down the stretch, and give credit to a commentary team that might not always be exactly on point, was exactly on point with Anthony Edwards just being gassed down the stretch of this game one. There were many times during this game in which, in the last 5 minutes, Ant was simply walking around, standing around. I thought the most impactful play from this game wasn't even a play he was involved in. Late in this one, after they are, I think, down by 4, they get a stop. Jaden McDaniels comes in with the rebound. He crosses half court. Anthony Edwards, still sitting way behind him, decides to drive, makes an ill-advised jump underneath the hoop. They cut off what he was trying to do, was pass to Gobert underneath. He turns it over, and that's the encapsulation of the Mavericks defense last night that did what the Denver Nuggets could not, and that was clog the paint, make the Minnesota Timberwolves a three-point shooting team. And while the Timberwolves were phenomenal last night, I think it was 18 made threes. I think they ended up at plus 39. That could be off, but that was what it was, like a minute and a half in the game from three-point. But Dallas routinely did two things. They defended the paint and they got into the paint. Plus 26, again, late in that fourth quarter, that number could have gone up to maybe 28, down to 24, something like that. But regardless, that the number changing doesn't mean too much of a difference. Dallas relentlessly got into the paint last night and did a phenomenal job of stopping the Timberwolves from doing the same. This was always going to be the concern for the Minnesota Timberwolves offense, was if they have two bigs, as they do, Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, are you going to be able to open up the paint and allow the driving lanes for Anthony Edwards? And last night, they simply could not do that. And that's where Ant's at his best. He hit a couple threes late in this game. He hit one that pulled them within one at one point in this one. But the fact of the matter was, and we saw this with Nikola Jokic in Game 7, if a guy is shooting a three late in the fourth quarter and his name's not Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, even Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, not a great three-point shooter, that's typically a sign of fatigue. And that's what it was for Anthony Edwards last night. Yes, he played great. Yes, he had an efficient game. He impacted the game in other ways. 11 boards, 8 assists. Yes, Karl Anthony Towns wasn't great, but the way that Minnesota lost this game was because they couldn't get into the paint. And that fatigue setting in late in this game was also a big part of why PJ Washington got wide open for what ended up being the go-ahead three-pointer with probably a minute and a half to go. Again, if your star, you've been riding him all game, Edwards played 41 minutes last night, and you're asking him to play two ways, that fatigue sets in, and it's more than just he doesn't get to the rack. It's more than just maybe his tired legs don't hit threes. In this case, he was. It's all about the fact that your fatigue sets in and impacts other parts of the game. You don't get back on defense. You don't bring the ball up. There were multiple possessions with 3 minutes left in this game, under 3 minutes and under, in which Anthony Edwards sat in the corner. They called it out on commentary where he was trying to steal some rest. You can do that when you're Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving because you've got this prolific score with the ball on the other side. I mean, they were both prolific. They played each 40 and 41 minutes. They took 23 and 26 shots. That's Kyrie first, Luka Doncic second. They were really, really great. But the Minnesota Timberwolves not having that second on-ball creator ends up killing them. Now, here's the thing. We do this a lot. We're prisoners of the moment. Talked about it on Monday's podcast. Minnesota had a chance to win this. Despite all of what we just said, not getting to the paint, Anthony Edwards getting fatigued, they had a chance to win this game in the fourth quarter. Not just at any point, like with crunch time minutes there. This is not time to panic if you're Minnesota. make some small adjustments. You just took down the defending champs. The series is not done. But there are some big things that they're going to have to figure out if they're to advance to the SWBA finals. Let's head to the other side, where we're going to get game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight with the Pacers and the Celtics. And let's prisoner of the moment as well. Pacers lose game 1. People are going to probably say that was their best shot at it, and they might very well be. That was a prolific collapse last night. There, since 1997, 1998, when these stats would have been tracked, teams that had a 3-point lead with 10 seconds or left on the clock had never lost a game until the Indiana Pacers found a way to do it with just kind of what happened against the Sixers and the Knicks series, where you just haven't quite figured out how to win basketball games in the biggest moments, and that's what happened. So what do they need to do to get back tonight and even the series? Truthfully, do the same things that you were doing in game 1, because we talked about the lack of Kristaps Porzingis really going to impact the Celtics, and it did in game 1. The Pacers did a phenomenal job of getting Miles Turner going, of getting Pascal Siakam going. What they'll need to do is a couple things. Siakam's got to be the same exact 20 shot attempt game. Look to what we just talked about, Minnesota and Dallas. The Timberwolves fell because they were so reliant on one guy to create. And as good as Karl Anthony Towns can be, he's not an on-ball creator. Pascal Siakam is. He took 23 shots, he made 12 of them, 24 points last night, in game 1. They'll need that version of him again, a very aggressive, hyperactive Pascal Siakam. They also are going to need to do, which they did relentlessly in game 1, they need to attack Al Horford in every single switch. Draymond Green's been getting a little bit of hate on the TNT broadcast because he's kind of, for no real good reason, dragging Rudy Gobert's name, despite the fact that, I don't know, Draymond, Rudy's actually still playing basketball and not in a suit talking about it. Regardless, he talked about it in the tail end of the Cavaliers series against the Celtics, where Karis LeVert was just bringing Al Horford into every single offensive possession. That's what the Pacers are going to need to keep doing, because Al Horford's great. He is well loved in the state of Boston, in the city of Boston, the state of Massachusetts, and around New England for Celtics fans. He is still a very good floor-stretching big, but he's also 39 years old, and he is getting filleted by Aaron Nemhard, of all people. And if Aaron Nemhard is the one that's taking me down, I'm going to keep going to that matchup. So I would expect the Pacers to continue to do that. And if Porzingis, again, he's I think they ruled him out for game 1 and 2, so we're not holding our breath to see if he's going to be on the court here tonight in game 2. Talked about it though in the preview. If the Pacers can take one of these two, split headed back to Indiana, and by the way, this is the game that the Celtics like to not show up for, game 2s. They have a chance to win the series, so it's going to be vital for them to lick the wounds from game 1 and say, yes, we should have won. But in an SWBA playoffs, there's going to be 2 to 3 games in every series that could go either way. They blew one. Now's the time to respond and make a difference, make it up, even this series at one apiece. I think they have a chance to do it just based off being an aggressive team, hunting mismatches, and there's some for them to go after. All right, that's our SWBA. We'll be back chatting about Game 2, which I'm extremely excited for. But there's plenty of action in SimWorld Prep last night. Let's go with a Beyond the Arch win. There was a little bit of conversation from the Beyond the Arch faithful and Coach Lytle over these past couple days, trying to talk their way into contention as they were citing their win against Cascadia. Well, they get a big win against SimWorld Africa. Now, granted, SimWorld Africa also was a 9-20 team. It's not necessarily one I'm going to put up on the mantle as one of the most impactful wins. Regardless, getting wins and getting momentum is huge at this point in the season, and Nick Bowie was doing just that. 18 points, was able to push this game into overtime, rallying back in the fourth quarter. And a big win for Beyond the Arch as they now are trying to look at a little bit better. So if they were starting right now, they would still be getting Cascadia, and that's pretty much locked in as they're 2 games behind Showtime. But It's not so much as important about getting wins right now as it's gaining confidence. And I think this is a big win for Beyond the Arch to gain that confidence to say, look, we think we can compete at the highest levels. And again, granted, it's a SimWorld Africa team that's been up and down, but there's not a ton of similarities. But if you squinted your eyes a lot and probably threw on a filter or two, you could see some of the similarities between Africa and Cascadia in that they're got that one star that you're going to have to take down in Suno Chapa, or excuse me, for Kavan Jackson. Sorry, we're thinking Africa. I don't know why we're thinking. If you're looking at Cascadia, you're looking at Kavan Jackson and some of the big pieces they have. If you look at SimWorld Africa, you're saying, hey, we've got to stop Ethan Letterman. They did that last night. 10 points, 3 of 10 shooting. This was a big win for Beyond the Arch. Again, I'm not saying Africa is Cascadia, not even close. But if you are Beyond the Arch, you've now figured out some confidence boosters to be able to take it. Speaking of Tsuno Chapa, though, how about his step back game winner in the Best Coast Ballers win, which is going to take us into our SimWorld Prep wrap up here for Wednesday Night Hoops. It was a big one. It was a chock full one. And we're going to start, of course, with Best Coast Ballers as they go on the road to the floating island of hoops, and it was Suno Chapo who steps back and drains home a three for Best Coast Ballers, moving them to 16-13, a huge win that overshadows Jarrell Beauchamp 25-point outing. We'll move on to the second game on the docket, Run DMB and Beasts of the East. Beasts needed a rally, 25 points from one and only Losi Thomas, but DMV falls 70-67 in that one. The North and Gotham 5, a little regional matchup. How about the North picking up a big win, 25 points? Or excuse me, Gotham 5 picking up a big win, 18 points from Kel McKnight to carry them there. Southeast Select made little interest of playing against the Indy Stripes. 15 points from Keandre Aldridge, but 5 players in double figures for Southeast in a 70-65 win. We talked about Africa, and we talked about Beyond the Arch. Of course, it was that overtime win for Beyond the Arch to clinch that one. Needing the win, we talked about the confidence boost that comes from that. They got just that, picking up their 9th win on the season in a very competitive one. They locked down in overtime on the defensive end, and then wrapping it up, Rocky Mountain, Asia Pacific, Justin Bell, Dink Pay, 18 apiece, 36 combined, and they roll over Asia Pacific. A really great defensive game from Rocky Mountain, which we've talked about all season long. If Rocky Mountain's defense can show up, this team has a real good shot at making a run in the run-to-one. Their offense, we know, is great. It did that last night. If they get that one there, then it would be a big one if their defense can show up. As always, make sure you are headed over to Discord, joining the Discord feed. And, of course, tonight you're going to know is our game of the week. Royce Anderson, Darius McBride, a little Southeast showdown, baby. A little ATL versus Miami. What city is better? Everyone knows it's Miami. There's no question about it. There's probably a lot of questions about it, but that is our game of the week. That's coming up tonight in another very full schedule on the docket. A Thursday triple header. We get a Wednesday triple header. Now we're getting a Thursday triple header. That one's at 7. But stick around because there's more good basketball after that. Gulf Coast and Lone Star. Kai Killens and Arthur Lattimore going at it at 8 p.m. and then 9 p.m. Asia Pacific back at it against Benari James and the Heartland Zombie Stars. That's our show. We're coming back tomorrow morning, of course, as we always do, because we're 5 days a week over here. Friday morning, May 24th, we'll be chatting about everything in SimWorld. We'll be talking about Game 2, Pacers Celtics. Can the Celtics go up by 2, or can the Pacers take home court headed back to the Hoosier State? Tune in there. Tune in on SimWorld TV. Thanks for joining us here on SimWorld TV. Only place you can see the game, be the game.